never really had a lot of disagreements, but then again, we never really talked to each other very much after, for the past 20 years.
For decades, John Oates stood quietly in the shadow of one of the most successful duos in music history, smiling on stage while storms brewed behind the scenes. To the world, Hall and Oates looked unbreakable. Hit after hit, sold-out shows, and a friendship that seemed rock solid. But now, at 77, John Oates is finally opening up about what really happened when the cameras were off. In this video, we dive into the long hidden tensions, painful misunderstandings, and the moments Oates claims slowly damaged his reputation while his partner walked away untouched. This isn't just a story about fame or music. It's about loyalty, silence, and what it costs when one half of a legendary partnership feels erased. In 1967, on the campus of Temple University in Philadelphia, two young musicians, John Oates and Daryl Hall, crossed each other's paths and instantly connected over a shared passion for soul and rock. Fans would later say their story began like a picture-perfect scene. Their meeting, at a Battle of the Bands-style event, felt almost symbolic, a small moment that would quietly spark one of the most influential musical partnerships of all time. Daryl Hall was a young soul with a silken voice and instinctive creativity, who naturally emerged as the emotional anchor of a duo's success. John, on the other hand, was grounded by his guitar work, and his sense was straightforward, businesslike. Different in nature, they were still inseparable. Two talented forces moving in harmony and completing what others lacked. Yet those very differences, so vital to their success, would one day become the source of quiet tension. The road of the dream wasn't easy. For years they searched for a sound, a time when they could truly reflect who they were, struggling to break through a crowded, competing industry. It was not until their self-titled album in 1975 that they would finally begin to see them. From there, the late 70s and 80s carried them to staggering heights. Hit after hit poured out, each song blending soul, rock, and pop into something unmistakably their own, catchy, polished, and enduring. From the outside, it looked like perfection. Fame, acclaim, and a catalog that defined an era. But beneath the applause, subtle fractures were forming. As time moved forward, the harmony that once felt effortless began to strain, and the first signs appeared that even the most successful partnerships are not immune to change. But as they say, everything has a fair price, so for fame. For Daryl, success came but wrapped in an invisible weight that grew heavier with every hit record. From outside, they both stood at the peak of popular music, but for Hall, this fame became like a beautifully decorated prison. The very success they had chased for years was now closing in on him, limiting him rather than liberating his creative spirit. At the heart of it was a growing creative divide. Hall felt restless, hungry to evolve, to chase new sounds and ideas that stretched beyond what had already worked. John Oates, by contrast, appeared comfortable staying the course. The formula they had refined, polished pop infused with soul and rock, continued to deliver results, and Oates saw no reason to disrupt a machine that was running flawlessly. But as the hits kept coming, Hall's sense of confinement deepened. The Hall and Oates name was no longer just a partnership. It had become a massive brand, one that seemed to overshadow the individuals behind it. For a naturally inventive artist like Hall, repetition felt suffocating. He wanted risk, experimentation, and artistic growth, things that didn't always align with maintaining a proven commercial identity. Over time, frustration quietly turned into resentment. What once felt like balance now felt like restraint. and the duo's harmony began to strain under the pressure of unspoken disagreements. Eventually, Hall started looking elsewhere for breathing room. His solo projects became a lifeline, a chance to explore unfamiliar sounds and themes that would never fit comfortably under the Hall and Oates umbrella. These ventures weren't acts of rebellion as much as survival, an attempt to reclaim a sense of artistic self that had been buried beneath years of expectation. Ironically, the freedom he found outside the duo only made the internal divide more visible. To Hall, it began to seem as though their priorities had fundamentally shifted. Where he still saw a creative partnership pushing forward, he believed Oates had taken on a more managerial role, focused on preserving what already existed rather than imagining what could come next. The realization cut deeply. Hall has since spoken of this period with a quiet sense of betrayal, mourning what the partnership used to be. What once thrived on shared vision and mutual respect now felt painfully uneven. Hall viewed himself as the driving creative force, urging progress and change, while Oates appeared content keeping the wheels turning. When Hall suggested taking a step back, a pause to grow individually, reflect, and eventually reunite stronger, it felt like a last attempt to save what they had built. But time would reveal that the two men were no longer moving toward the same future, and the distance between them was growing wider with every passing year. In a candid interview, Daryl Hall pinpointed the exact moment he felt the partnership that had defined his life and the lives of millions of fans shatter. He recalled thinking, for so long, that he and John Oates were aligned, moving forward as equals with a shared vision. In truth, Hall discovered, Oates was quietly making decisions behind his back, planning tours, approving projects, and handling their shared business affairs without consulting him. Hall didn't mince words. He called it a plain and simple betrayal. It was a revelation that cut far deeper than business disagreements or creative differences. For Hall, it was about trust, the very foundation of their decades-long collaboration. He had believed that, despite their occasional clashes over music, they were partners in every sense, each invested in their collective legacy. But the actions of his longtime friend and collaborator suggested otherwise. Every secret decision, every unilateral move Oates made, felt like a knife through the history they had built together. The sense of mutual respect that had once defined Hall and Oates now left a raw, aching void, a wound that no amount of music or nostalgia could heal. The partnership, once a seamless fusion of talent and vision, had transformed into something colder, transactional. They continued to perform together, yet the unspoken tension and lingering resentment had replaced the creative intimacy they had once shared. Interviews reveal that Hall has never fully let go of that bitterness, often describing their current dynamic as simply a business arrangement rather than the brotherhood it once was. The tension came to a head when Oates made a bold move to sell his shares of their joint company to Primary Wave Music, a decision that Hall saw as a direct threat to everything they had built. Feeling cornered, Hall took legal action, obtaining a temporary restraining order to halt the sale until the dispute could be resolved through arbitration. Oates, in his own interviews, admitted a sense of surprise that their collaboration had lasted as long as it did. He confessed that, at times, he had considered ending the partnership years earlier. From his perspective, Hall's focus on individuality, his desire to be recognized as an artist in his own right, separate from the duo, necessitated difficult decisions. Oates defended his actions as rooted in responsibility, both to himself and to his family, emphasizing the need to act with honesty and pragmatism in business matters. He also acknowledged that, after 50 years, people naturally grow apart. Creative differences, he argued, could be navigated with negotiation and compromise, but business decisions carried stakes that were far less flexible. For Hall, the emotional impact of this era remains profound. What had once been a harmonious collaboration, marked by shared dreams and musical innovation, had been reduced to a fragile truce. The emotional bonds that fueled their music had frayed under the pressure of trust broken and choices made in isolation. Reflecting on the decades behind them, there is nostalgia for what was lost, tinged with a recognition that some rifts, once opened, cannot truly be closed. Their story, full of brilliant highs and wrenching lows, serves as a cautionary tale about the cost of fame, the fragility of trust, and the complexities of lifelong partnerships in both art and life. The echoes of their shared history remain, every performance, every collaboration, a bittersweet reminder of what was once magical but now exists as something far more complicated, a partnership both legendary and painfully human. By 2020, before the rift fully erupted, Hall had been quietly working on a new album for the duo, a project that, in retrospect, would never come to fruition. The music, the creative spark they once shared, remained unfinished, a ghost of what could have been. Oates, while still expressing respect for the legacy they built together, made it clear in interviews that performing with Hall again was no longer on his agenda. Instead, he chose to focus on his solo path, stepping away from the partnership that had defined both their careers. For Hall, the experience was devastating. He has described the entire affair in stark, unflinching terms, calling Oates's actions a profound act of bad faith that inflicted serious upheaval on his life. The betrayal brought not only emotional turmoil, but also practical complications, unnecessary expense, and a weighty sense of burden. Hall even felt that the timing of Oates's move was calculated, striking just as he was preparing for a tour, a moment when he was least able to defend the partnership. On a deeper level, Hall saw the dispute as a matter of principle. He has long opposed the corporate purchase of publishing rights, believing that music should remain rooted in artistry, not commodified strategy. For someone who had poured decades into this collaboration, the very partnership that had once been a source of immense pride and joy became a painful reminder of what he had lost. Hall reflects on their story now with a mixture of nostalgia and sorrow, seeing it as a cautionary tale about the fragility of even the strongest bonds. The pressures of fame, ambition, and miscommunication had slowly transformed their shared triumphs into a battlefield, and the music that once united them now underscored the distance that had grown between them. What had started as a harmonious alliance of two complementary talents ended as a complex tapestry of regret, reflection, and enduring loss. Hall's memories of their journey carry both the brilliance of their creative highs and the sting of their personal and professional fracture. A reminder that even the most celebrated partnerships are not immune to human conflict and the relentless passage of time. Despite the betrayal and the widening distance between them, Hall cannot ignore the weight of their shared history. Together, Hall and Oates created music that became timeless, crafting hits that continued to resonate long after personal conflicts arose. Their songs remain ingrained in the hearts of fans, a lasting reminder of the joy and magic they once brought to the world. Today, both continue to perform separately, yet their music endures, staples on playlists and radio stations around the globe. The legacy they built is undeniable, but beyond the melodies and charts, their story is a poignant reflection on trust, loyalty, and the profound pain that betrayal can leave in its wake. John Oates's career beyond Hall and Oates reveals a quieter but deeply intentional artistic journey, one rooted in longevity, craft, and personal authenticity rather than chart domination. While his name will forever be linked to one of the most successful duos in pop history, Oates has spent decades carving out an identity that stands on its own merits, independent of the global brand he helped build. Away from the duo, Oates leaned into his earliest musical instincts. He returned to the folk, blues, and Americana sounds that shaped him long before fame arrived. His solo albums reflect a musician less interested in trends and more committed to tradition, storytelling, and musicianship. Projects like Funk Shui, 1,000 Miles of Life, Mississippi Mile in Arkansas, showcase a seasoned artist embracing roots music with warmth and restraint, blending acoustic textures with lived-in lyrics that feel reflective rather than performative. Oates also became a respected collaborator outside the pop spotlight. He worked with bluegrass, folk, and roots artists, earning credibility in circles far removed from arena tours and radio singles. His involvement in the Americana and singer-songwriter communities highlighted a different side of his legacy, one grounded in musicianship, humility, and reverence for musical history. Rather than chasing past commercial highs, he chose creative freedom and personal fulfillment. Beyond recording, Oates has remained an active live performer, touring smaller venues where intimacy replaces spectacle. These performances emphasize connection over nostalgia, allowing audiences to see him not as half of a famous duo, but as a songwriter and guitarist with his own voice and vision. His memoir further cemented this perspective, offering a thoughtful, often candid reflection on success, partnership, and identity. John Oates's post-Hall and Oates legacy is not defined by separation, but by evolution. It is the story of an artist who understood that fame is only one chapter, not the whole book. By stepping away from the shadow of massive hits and choosing a more grounded path, Oates ensured that his career would not simply be remembered but respected.